Hello, welcome to CS110 Lab4. In this lab, I'm gonna talk about file I/O and stream processing. So this lab is a combination of three parts. First, I'm gonna talk about C++ file I/O, and then check input file state. And last, I'm gonna talk about using C++ strings. To use file input and output, we need to include the fstring library so that we enable the declaration for defining input and output strings with files other than cin and cout. And then we declare an input string called inData by using the keyword ifstring, and inData is just a name. You can name it anything else, but we use inData in here so that it is clear of what this variable name do. And to be able to use output string, we declare an output string called outData. So outstring outData. After declaration of the strings, we need to bind the string to the txt file which we are gonna read. So inData.open input file.txt will allow us to access the content in the input file.txt. And inside the double quotation, it is the file name. So if your file name is something else, for example, data.txt, then you just change this part into data.txt instead. Same with the outData open output file.txt. It binds outData to output file.txt. So whenever we are using outData to output, the data will go straight ahead to output file.txt. And if there is no such file is output file.txt, it's gonna generate an output file.txt. And if the output file.txt is already there, it's gonna override it. So for input one value or output one value, it looks a bit similar to cin and cout. So we are using extraction operator and the insertion operator to help us to input values and output values. After we finish with all the data input and output, it is always good habit to close the inData or outData related output file. Although return 0 will pretty much take care of this problem, but it's better to include the C's by the end when you are not using them, since if you have a larger program, if you forget about closing them, it might cause some issue. Now I'm gonna demonstrate about the sample code of file I/O. So first, we notice that inData open input file.txt, and there's no such file in my files. So I'm gonna create a file called exactly similar to this input file.txt, and then So from in data var 1, 2, 3, and 4, we know that we're gonna input 4 values. So I'm just gonna, okay, and so these values are gonna be float type. So I'm just gonna put in, for example, 1.2, 2.3, 3.4, and 4.5. And then let's test run it by using the g++ compile command. And then the file name is file.io.cpp -o. I'm gonna name it io and /io. Okay, so let's check it out. So on the left hand side, we see that there's an output file .txt get generated because there's no such file there before. And then from here, we know that the out data is gonna output the full input value in a different order. So it's gonna be value 4 first and all the way to value 1. So let's check it out. You can see here in line 1, 4.5, 3.4, 2.3, and 1.2. And the additional line 5 is because of the line change. So you can use the line change when you're outputting your data. So you see here the line change in the line 28 to generate that line 5 in the txt file. And after we finish using all these, we close the input file and output files. So what if I modify the input file a little bit? So instead of making line chains, I'm just gonna separate them by spaces. And then for the file io.cpp, instead of using endo, I'm gonna just use empty string. Okay, now let's recompile, run again. So from output file, we can see that the order of the output changed since it's overwritten. And then we notice that the numbers are correct. So just like the in data, which we use pretty much for if stream, is gonna keep reading the values which fits for the variable type until it matches with a space or an endo. So, but if I'm reading a wrong file name, for example, I change the input file's name to uppercase F, and I'm gonna delete the output file. Okay, let's see what's gonna happen after we recompile it. There's no error message show up, but we can see in here the output file becomes 0000. So it's not reading the correct numbers. So it is not reading mostly because it's the wrong file name. So how do we detect if the file is opened successful or not? Now move on to the next part of the lab, which is file check. So to be able to check our file state, we can use if statements. So in here we have if not in data or if not out data. So it pretty much means if the last IO operation on in data or out data stream is not successful. So if we don't have the exclamation mark, so the meaning of this if statement gonna change. So it become if in data is successful or if out data is successful. So now let's jump back to the file check.cpp in Replit. So in here you can see we have both if statement on line 20 and on line 30. So if not in data pretty much means if in data is not successful, then we are gonna see out can't open the import file successfully with an handle and then return 1. So it's pretty much throwing an inspection. So if we return 0, the whole function runs successfully. But if we return 1, then that exception means that the in data is not successful. And in here, if our data is not successful, we see out can't open the output file successfully, and then we return 2, so that we throw an exception that means the out data is not successful if the exception returned is 2. And the other functionalities are similar to the file IO.cpp. So to demonstrate the case, let me again change the input file name to the wrong file name. And I'm gonna compile the file check.cpp. The name fc, and then execute fc. Show me can't open the input file successfully. And if I change this to empty output file, and let me rerun it. So the output file is exactly the same empty status. It's never being changed. It's because when you return 1 or return 2, it terminated the whole thing. So if we return 1 here, the process after line 25 won't happen. If return 2 happen here, so the process after line 35 won't happen. If it returns 3 over here, then the process after line 45 won't happen. After talking about input file state check, now we're gonna move ahead to string functions and string operators. So string is actually a class. A class is a special data type with built-in functions. So same with the string class, we have ifstring and offstring from the fstring library. So if we want to use the string class, we're gonna include the string library in our program. And then we can use the functions by function call. So in here we use dot notation. So we use dot notation to do the function call. For example, we've been using dot open, dot get, and dot close for the f-string functions. To better demonstrate about declaring a string and all these dot length, dot size, dot find, dot substr, and string operators is all these things. I'm gonna do all these examples in the Replit to showcase them. Okay, now let's learn about how to declare string. So similar to how you declare integer, double float. So if you want to declare a string type, you just use string and then give it a name which you want it assigned to. And so in here, the string is called str1 and it is empty. So if I type cout here, str1 handle and compile it. You can see in here it's empty and the end will happen. So this string is pretty much equal to an empty string like this. Second case is which we initialize it by declare and assign. So we use double quotation to include the things we want to assign to it. So now hello dear is assigned to it, and if I cout str2, it's gonna show up hello dear. And this way of using circle bracket is a similar way. It's declare and construct. So if I now run it, you can see goodbye show up, and you can make changes in it, which will change the output. And then for str4, so we are now initialize it by a string expression. So we are assigning what is in str2 into the newly declared str4. So if I cout str4, it should be hello dear. You can see here, it's the same. Now we can even add up strings and assign it to a new string variable. So in here we can see we add up str2 and str3. So what is str2? Hello dear, and str3 is goodbye. So add them together, it will be hello dear, goodbye. And let's see out to see what happens. You can see that this is a str2 add-on with str3, which created str5. So in the case of str6 and str7, so we first assign A, B, C, D, F, G, all these characters as a string into str6, and then I'm gonna see out str6, and then I'm also gonna see out str7. So what we are doing here is we are initializing with a substring of another string object here. So from here we see that the string we want to use is string 6, and it's gonna go from character 2 all the way to character five characters after the character 2. So, and these are gonna be assigned to the substring str7. And if I compile it, you can see that exactly 5 characters. So let's count it. So for the string, you always count it from 0 if you want to locate the characters. So A is 0, so 0, 1, 2, and C is the second one. And then 5 means so with a length of 5, so we're going to take a substring of a length of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C, D, E, F, G, which is exactly the same as what we see here in the cout, C, D, E, F, G. So now let's test the things out. So if I want a substring which is from D to I, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's gonna start from 3, and then it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters. So change this part to 6 and recompile, execute it. You can see that it's from D to I. After learning about how to declare strings, now let's learn about how to use the length and size function provided by the string. So in here, we declare the string size type called len, and then we store the return value in a variable which is called len. So in here, str8 dot use length, which is function call calling the length function. So what the length function do is gonna return the length of str8 to len, and then we're gonna see out the len, so we know the length of the string. So of course we can count it manually. So if the len is from str8, we know there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters in. So it's a length of 5. But by using length, we don't have to manually count it, which brings us more flexibility in our code. And similarly with length, we have size, which provide the same functionality, which with the size function call, it returns the size of the string to the len and see out the len. And if we don't want to store the length anywhere, so in the later functionalities, we don't really use the length of the string, we can just directly see out it by putting the string name with the function call directly in the cout. Now let's test out this sample code. So in here we can see 555 exactly the number counted from the string 8. So instead of using string size type, we can actually use integer instead. So if I create an integer len and I'm gonna use it to store the length, and it's gonna be working too, so you don't really have to use the string scope and with the size type. You don't need to do that, you just need to use the integer type. Okay, after learning about how to use length and size, now let's learn about how to use find and substr. So on line 11, you can see that we are trying to find substr17 inside of substr16, and it's gonna return a position to the pause which we declared, and we're gonna see out it. So str17 is def, and if we count the numbers, so from character 0, which is A, so A, B, C, D, from the fourth position, no. So from the third position, we find DEF. So the number which returned to the pause, it's gonna be number 3, which you can see here in the console. And in here, we search from the beginning of str16. So by adding a comma with the integer after the string we want to search for, it assigns the find function to find str17 in str16 starting from the 0 position. So of course, it's similar with the finding here. So because by default, it's gonna start finding the string from 0 position. So it's gonna find it, which is in the 3rd position of the string. But on line 21, you can see that we start finding it from 5th position, which it created issue since DEF start from the 3rd position. So we're not gonna find it. So if we're not gonna find it, a really large number will be assigned to the pose, which you can see in here, which is a huge number, which is actually, you can check it by using an if statement. So we can see on line 25, we use the string 16. So we want to find AB, which is uppercase in the string 16, which of course we can't find it because it's case sensitive. And then if the position which we get by return is equal to the string type of no position, so no such position exists. We see out not found and return 1 to terminate the whole function. So by return 1, all the lines after 31 don't happen. That's why in here the cout19 and cout20 never happen in here. So let's modify this thing a little bit by changing it to a being lowercase. Now it's gonna find it. Let's recompile it, run the code. So as we can see here, we find it. So this if statement didn't trigger. And then on line 32, we have a new string called str18 and a new string called str19, which is using the substr function. So the substr function is pretty much trying to get the substring. So in here, we are trying to get a substring from str18, and it's gonna start from location 5, and it's gonna be 2-character length. So we're gonna count it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's gonna start from F, and it's gonna be 2 characters, so F, G. So what's gonna start in str19 is the substring, which is FG. And after it gets cout, we can see in here is FG. And if you haven't assigned a number after the starting location you want the substring to start from, so you don't really set up the length of characters you want. In this case, it's gonna get the substring from the 5th location and with all the characters afterwards it. So it's gonna start from F and get all the characters afterwards it. So it's FGHI, which we can see in here show up FGHI. So addition note, you can also use integer type instead of using the size type in here. So if you are using integer type, if you fail to find the string you want, the position will be -1. So in here we can try it out. So I'm gonna change this back to AB and change the if statement to check if position is equal to -1. And if I run the code again, I see here. So instead of printing a really big number in here, it's printing out -1. And by checking if pos equal to -1, we can know if it's not found or found. So after all the functions, now let's talk about string operators. So this one actually already appears in string declaration. So you can assign one string's value to another string. So in here we can see that there's a string called string1, and we assign hello into it. And then we have another string, which is string 2 get declared, which is the empty string. But then on line 10, we assign string 1 to string 2. So string 2 is going to be also equal to hello. So if I see out string 2, and I'm going to compile it, run it. You can see here is see out hello. So we can also actually assigning a character array or string literal to a C++ string. This is a typo in here. So in here we can see that we have a char, which is we make it as an array called str, and it is storing all the string characters in here. I'm a character array. So now we declare a string called string 3 and set it equal to str. So if I see out it, you can see that although it's a character array, it can be assigned directly into a string. But if I want to type out a single position in the character array, so for the string, you can think it as an array of characters. So what is an array is pretty much like you imagine it's like a shelf, and there's positions from 0 all the way to the end. So if I try to see out here, str with the index 5 and recompile it, you see it's empty. Why? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is the empty space. So it's gonna show empty. I'm gonna change it to 4. Now it's gonna give me A since it's in position 4 of the string. So you'll learn more about the arrays later. So if you don't understand it right now, it's okay. In here, we learn about assigning a single character char to a string. So in here we have string 4, char ch, which is equal to uppercase A, and string 4 equal to ch. So we are assigning a single character A to the string 4, and then later change it to equal to C again. So in here we can see out that string 4, which is gonna type as A, and then in here, because Z gets assigned, so which we see out string 4 again, it's gonna give us that. Let's test run it. So A and Z. So in here we can see two strings. There's two strings. One is str1 equal to hello, and there's str2 equal to dear. And what we are doing here is pretty much adding up these two strings and assigning it to a new string called str3. So this example is also in string declaration. So hello plus dear, which by the order how they plus each other, we can know the str3 gonna be equal to hello dear. So let me see out it here. See out str3 and let's run it. Let's see here. Hello dear. Okay. So for a string and a character string literal, we can also, so in here we are using another method, which is actually plusing a string variable name with a string we just directly written. And it's actually gonna function the same, so it's gonna also give us hello dear. And similar to that, if you are trying to add a single character, it's gonna also work. So if I see out str6, it's gonna be the end with the exclamation mark. Here is an example of, instead of using the equal plus, we use plus equal. So in here we have string1, which is having hello inside of it, and str1 plus equal hello dear, which will give us hello dear in str1. So this type of writing is pretty much similar to str1 equal to str1 plus here. So the way of writing this is like you save more time, save more characters, and also it saves some running time when the program get really big. So now let's talk about the Lab4 exercises. So for exercise 1 and 2, it's going to be about file I/O and the input file state check. And for exercise 3 and 4, it's going to be how to use functions in strings to modify the strings. For exercise 1, if you go to your team repo project, which we posted, you can see it's pretty much empty. So you can use the sample codes from the lab nodes in file IO and check input file states to help you writing your exercise 1. So what you are going to do in exercise 1 is first to create an ex1 input.txt. Since there's no such file in the project we provide, you need to add a file into it and then add 10 float values into it. You can decide what kind of values. And then your program needs to read from the ex1 input.txt, read the 10 float values, and then calculate them in the main function as sum and average. And then you need to output the sum and average to the ex1 output.txt. Make sure your output needs to be tidily and with labels. So, for example, sum and then with the number behind it, and then average with the number behind it in your output file. Also, you need to use if statements to see if the input and output files open successfully before reading or writing with them. So you need to use the if in data, not in data, and if not all data to check. And then you compile and run this C+ program after you finish your code and check if you get the correct sum and average into your output.txt, and then make a screenshot of your Replit console showing your successful compile command and run command. For exercise 2, what you need to do is to modify the open code we provide. So what pretty much these codes for exercise 2 do is by reading 4 strings, which are person's names, from the ex2 input.txt using the getLine function, and then output them in an opposite order into the ex2 output.txt, and then close the input and output file. So you need to use the ex2 input.txt, put in 4 persons' names, which are written in the land nodes. And additional to that, add your own name and your instructor's name. So your program is gonna read all these 6 names from the ex2 input.txt by using getLine functions. And then all these 6 names are gonna be outputted to the ex2 output.txt. After you successfully compile and run this C++ program, check if all the outputs are correct in the output.txt, and then take a screenshot of your console showing your G++ compile command and your /run command to show your successful run. And then for exercise 3, so in here, in this exercise, what you need to do is to follow in the comments on line 11 and line 14. So add codes to display the content of the old sentence, and then use function to get the length of old sentence and display it. Just a reminder that you can't just manually count the number of characters in the string and see out. You need to use the string function. And then after these, do not make any changes to the following code. Just read and understand this program. So these codes are all correct, and it's gonna be in the purpose of using the position and the length function to generate substrings, and then find the way of creating a new sentence which is without way in the sentence. So instead of counting the quick brown old dog jumped way over the lazy cat, the new sentence is gonna see out the quick brown dog jumped over the lazy cat instead. For exercise 4, it is actually similar to exercise 3. So if you understand the codes in exercise 3 here, you can pretty much do exercise 4 with no issue. So again, you need to have an original sentence instead of old sentence, and then assign enough for something completely different to the original sentence, and then display the content and display the length by using string function, and then declare a string variable srch to store the word completely, and then use the string function to find the position of completely in the original string, and then display the position of completely, and then declare a new string called new string, and then use the substr to get the substring of and null for something. By using the position we use, by using the position we find, and by using the substr function, you can get the substring and then output the new string which contain and null for something, and then get a substring of original string with value different. So also use substr to get the substring, and then add this to your new string so that it's gonna be and null for something different, which is without completely in it. In here, just make sure that you never calculate the string length and find the position manually by counting in the string. You need to use the functions to do this job. And then after you compile and run the C+ program, check if all your outputs are correct, and then take a screenshot of your IDE and console window after running the program with all the correct outputs, and then download the zip from the Replit. It's gonna contain all your CPU files and .txt files, and also include with all the screenshots you take for exercise 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then submit them to your courses, and then you are done. So that's all contents for this lab, and I hope you understand all the contents and have fun with coding.